Local 4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
An alleged plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan is foiled. Militia members arrested and facing terrorism charges. Today, the governor has a message for those who seek violence as a solution.
We will find you. We will hold you accountable, and we will bring you to justice.
Staggering revelations today from federal and local officials revealing that alleged kidnapping plot.
So here are the basics. 13 people are facing charges ranging from gang membership to weapons charges to providing support to terrorists. The alleged plot at the center of it all involved kidnapping Governor Whitmer either at the state capitol building in Lansing or at the Whitmer family vacation home. The accused militia members apparently planned to take the governor to Wisconsin to put her on what they imagined to be a trial for treason. We have team coverage tonight, including Karen Drew with reaction from the governor and Mara McDonald with what state lawmakers are saying. We also have Jason Colthorpe. He's in Jackson County where some of the alleged training took place.
Let's start things off, though, here at 5 with Local 4 defender Sean Lay on the charges and the specifics of this alleged plot. Sean, these details are just mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling, breathtaking. Some may say the neighbors can't believe them, but what we're talking about is a group accused of wanting to storm the Capitol in the most violent way, start some sort of civil war, and you just laid out that this alleged plot about using a taser to abduct or kidnap Governor Whitmer, the FBI following this along every step of the way, and they moved in last night in a big way.
Adam Fox, Barry Croft, Ty Garbin, Caleb Franks, Daniel Harris, and Brandon Caserta conspired to kidnap the governor from her vacation home in the Western District of Michigan before the November election.
Neighbor photos showing FBI raids going down all over Metro Detroit and all over the state, targeting multiple men who the feds say were targeting Governor Whitmer to kidnap her. You heard the name Caleb Franks. He lives right here on Holbrook in Waterford. A neighborhood watched as an armored vehicle pulled up last night and a jaw-dropping raid was on.
It's definitely not the sort of thing you see every day. It's not every day you see the FBI raid your neighbor's house, especially when you find out it's a plot to kidnap the governor.
The feds say it all started with some very real, very alarming chatter on social media about acts of violence targeting states that two men believed were violating the Constitution, clearly during COVID-19 shutdowns. The FBI says that turned into a recruitment effort at a Second Amendment rally in Lansing, and that turned into meetings. And the FBI was able to listen in and had undercover agents recording conversations. And they watched as plans turned into actual training and said the men had a clear and real plan to, quote, snatch the governor as she arrived at her vacation home.
The complaint further alleges that Fox purchased a taser for use in the kidnapping and that the group successfully detonated an improvised explosive device wrapped with shrapnel to test its anti-personnel capabilities.
Back here live, terrorism charges, conspiracy, weapons charges, just to name a few. We're live here in Heartland. This is the home of Ty Garber. You see behind me the FBI moving in a big aggressive way last night to serve a search warrant here. And here in the other homes we stopped at of the other suspects, the neighbors all say the same thing, that these guys were extremely quiet, never tipped their hand, never spoke of any of this, as they're absolutely shocked. First they're hearing about this. Neighborhoods in shock. Much more coming up at 6. Back to you.
It's crazy. Okay, Sean, thank you. Now to the governor herself and what she's saying about this case and the danger posed to her and her family.
Governor drawing a quick connection between the plot to kidnap her and words recently spoken by President Trump when asked about white supremacists in last week's debate. We bring in Local 4 defender Karen Drew with more on the governor's reaction, and now the White House is weighing in too, Karen.
Oh, that's right, Devin. It was just moments ago the White House issued a statement saying Governor Whitmer is causing division, and that is after some strong words she expressed pointing the finger at President Trump for actually encouraging racist groups to stand back and stand by. She believes those groups heard Trump's word and reacted.
It was a news conference Governor Gretchen Whitmer never expected to happen.
I knew this job would be hard, but I'll be honest. I never could have imagined anything like this.
The governor referencing a frightening plot from two different militia groups, people who have been recently training in the field for this operation, working on making explosives and mapping out a plan to strike at the governor's vacation house in northern Michigan.
Who are preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me.
The governor thanking those who were able to infiltrate the groups and make the arrests.
As a mom with 2 teenage daughters and 3 stepsons, my husband and I are eternally grateful to everyone who put themselves in harm's way to keep our family safe.
Those words of thanks turned to condemnation of President Trump.
Stand back and stand by.
Just last week, the President of the United States stood before the American people and refused to condemn white supremacists and hate groups like these 2 Michigan militia groups.
The governor believes that's exactly what these men who are charged in this kidnapping conspiracy heard and acted on.
Hate groups heard the president's words not as a rebuke, but as a rallying cry, as a call to action.
And the governor went on to say this tension is because of her decisions, her tough decisions she had to make in terms of dealing with COVID-19, reminding the public that we are not each other's enemies, the virus is. She went on to say she is hoping the men who are charged in this conspiracy will face conviction. Now our coverage continues in Lansing, where we join Mara McDonald. Mara.
Hi, Karen. In my 20 years of covering the Michigan legislature, never has there been a day in Lansing like this one. Let me show you. News of the plot has stunned the legislature.
Michigan now is the laughingstock of the world because we have 6 individuals planning a kidnapping of a governor. Imagine how we feel as Detroit representatives, the Black Caucus members who feel like their lives are threatened because basically the message has gone out that you are to push back against protesters, you are to push back against Black Lives Matter.
It has been a tense 2020 in Lansing with serious disagreements over the governor's continued COVID executive orders, which were halted last week by the Michigan Supreme Court. Now, Stand Up Michigan, a group which has been extremely critical of the governor's handling of the crisis, coincidentally had a rally at the Capitol today and said a prayer for the governor and her continued safety. Extremism is not welcome.
We can express ourselves and have disagreements, but nobody here, and again, nobody that I know in the Capitol or people that I work with would ever stand behind acts of violence like that on either side.
Back here live, one thing is certain. The plot that was revealed today has legislators talking about an issue earlier this year when there was another rally here at the Capitol where you had open carry advocates go into the Capitol. Some were very intimidated, some were downright scared, and it has brought up the whole issue of should firearms be allowed in the Capitol building. There has been not a lot of movement on that so far this summer, but tonight at 6, we're going to talk about where that goes from here. We're live in Lansing tonight. I'm Mara McDonald. Back to you.
Something. All right, Mara. Agents also raided the home of 2 of the suspects in Munith in Jackson County. They say this home served as a training facility for members of the militia. And our Jason Colthorpe is there live tonight with more from there. Jason.
Well, Devin, yeah, and to call this a training facility would be like calling the dirt trails out here, Michigan International Speedway. Really, when you take a closer look at the property here, very messy, disorganized, and that's what neighbors have told us. And if you were able to see on the other side of some of these trees, there is a huge stack of old tires that neighbors said they used when they would shoot guns. And if you hear something behind me, it's because some of the 2 families were living here. And there's some noise now. 2 cars have just pulled in, and some family members who have come out here very emotional, asking us to not show them on camera. But we believe it's we have 2 suspects here. One's the wife and one's the daughter of one of the suspects. So clearly emotional. But calling the police on just the mess behind me is only one of the reasons called in the past. Take a listen. 2 of the men accused in a plot to kidnap the governor, Pete Musico and Joseph Morrison, live at this home on Dunn Road in Munith, a rural area of Jackson County. Family of the 2 men tell me Morrison is married to Musico's daughter. They say the raid began just after midnight. That's when neighbors saw the mass of marked and unmarked police cars, including military vehicles, and a chopper overhead.
It sounds like Vietnam, you know?
Well, we heard the copters, and they just never stopped, and they kept circling, and they had lights
For 2
on,
hours,
and I'm thinking,
for a couple
wow.
hours, man. I mean, that's our normal.
Neighbors have called police in the past about this property being an eyesore, and another neighbor called twice about high-powered automatic weapons being fired and saw dozens of men in militia fatigues on the property in recent months. Still, news of a plot to kidnap and overthrow the governor came as a shock.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Like kids
crazy.
were.
These are crazy times.
Musico, 42, and Morrison in his mid-20s were both arraigned this afternoon in Jackson County Court.
To me, violence of any kind is not acceptable in society. You know, it's not acceptable.
And the raid that we were talking about left a lot of damage to the home here, which is why these folks are here. They're here. If you were able to take a closer look, a lot of the windows are blown out. The front door has been caved in and is being guarded by a table. And the people who are here now are trying to gather some things and leave. We're going to stay on this story and have more for you as this develops. Back to you.
Jason, before you go, there was an earlier report of a standoff at that location. Do we know what happened?
We're waiting to confirm that with police, but we did talk to somebody who's on a work crew the next property over, and he heard gunshots in the area of 10, 11 o'clock this morning. He said it was already after kind of the initial situation went down, so we're waiting to confirm if that was related to taking these two men into custody here.
Just unbelievable, everything that has happened. Okay, Jason, we appreciate it very much. And many of you watched a live stream of the governor's 3 p.m. news conference on clickondetroit.com. Our web staff has been hard at work putting together a deep dive into the charges, the timeline of events in this case, and much more. You'll find it all right there on the homepage of the website.
And ahead here at 5:30, we'll get the perspective of a Metro Detroiter who spent a lot of time at the top of law enforcement. Andy Arena, former head of the FBI Detroit Division, will join us live, and we'll talk to him about whether he's ever seen anything quite like this.
Wow, what a day.
Yeah.
Ahead here at 5, parking has long been an issue for people coming to downtown Detroit. We'll show you what's being done to make it easier.
Let's check in with Hank Winchester. Hank.
If you've been working to collect unemployment in Michigan but have problems logging on or connecting with a real person to get answers, we have good news for you. The big change coming to the Unemployment Insurance Agency. It's coming up in my Help Me Hank report.
Okay, Hank, and next, the family of a woman mistakenly declared dead by paramedics is taking the city of Southfield to court over it. What they're seeking next.